Right, as promised, I'm back. I'm back with one of the most important stories that we're going to be covering. And this is one of the most important stories in the history of our country. Zimbabwe is going through one of the most dramatic removals of a president that we've ever seen. This has been ongoing for over a month. Mnangagwa was warned by Blessed Geza more than a month ago that was going to be removed, and it has finally happened. Mnangagwa is going to be removed from office, and a process is going to be followed for removing Mnangagwa. The process will start with a parliamentary process, and that process has not yet been determined. There is no actual explanation of the detail. I've been looking for the detail of what is going to happen, but that detail is not available. However, Mnangagwa is going to be removed through a parliamentary process. A document has already been prepared showing what is going to happen and showing the charges or the problems that are with Mnangagwa currently. So the announcement has been made less than 2 hours ago that Zimbabwe President Mnangagwa is incapacitated. The announcement was made by war veteran Blessed Geza, who announced that they have obtained the medical records of Zimbabwe President Mnangagwa, and he has vascular dementia. Vascular dementia means he's mentally unfit to be the president of Zimbabwe, and he is no longer able to exercise his duties. So there is a process that is followed, and I've asked Senator Khalipani Pugeni to join me if he's able to give us an actual breakdown of what is going to happen as he understands what happens in Senate. So I hope that Senator Khalipani Pugeni will be able to come here and give us a breakdown of what happens in the case where a president is incapacitated. However, what I've decided to do is I've obtained a breakdown of what happens in an impeachment. And in 2017, there was an impeachment of Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe. And there was a description by a top lawyer, constitutional lawyer, Alex T. Magaisa, the late Alex T. Magaisa. He explained that impeaching President Mugabe will not be a quick or simple affair. Robert Mugabe, despite what some are saying, impeachment, the president cannot be done in a mere day or a week. So it's going to take time. In the case of Mugabe, it took time. So let me explain to you what he said here, and I would like to thank the guys who have sent this to me. Now that ZANU-PF is resolved to commence impeachment proceedings against Zimbabwe's president, it is important to examine this constitutional process. There is a great sense of expectation among the people, fueled by high levels of desperation to see a new president. However, it is important to shed light on what this process entails. While it is desirable to fast-track the procedure, there are certain fundamental matters of law and principles that cannot be sidestepped. This makes the procedure more complicated than had previously been suggested. Let us first examine the stages of the impeachment procedure. First, there must be a resolution supported by a simple majority of the total membership of parliament recommending the removal of the president on one or more grounds, as stated in Section 97 of the Constitution. These grounds are serious misconduct, failure to obey, uphold, or defend the Constitution, willful violation of this Constitution, inability to perform the functions of the office because of physical or mental incapacity. So there are 4 grounds on which the president can be impeached, and I've shown you above. A simple majority of the total membership of parliament means the members of the National Assembly and the Senate must be voting together, sitting as a joint body. The resolution must be supported by more than 50% of the combined members of the National Assembly and Senate. So what will happen is that the National Assembly, which is Parliament, and Senate will sit, and then they will vote, and 50% of the National Assembly and the joint sitting must say the president must be removed. Second, once the first resolution has been passed, Parliament's Committee on Standing Rules and Orders must appoint a joint committee of both the National Assembly and Senate consisting of 9 members. The membership of this committee must reflect the political composition of Parliament. In other words, it must have the proportional representation of the parties represented. In this case, that means it must have representatives from both ZANU-PF and CC and other formations. This committee must carry out the investigations to establish whether there is a justifiable ground for removal of the president. Third, once the committee has completed its investigations, it makes a recommendation to Parliament. If the recommendation is that the president must be removed, both the National Assembly and the Senate must sit together in another joint session to vote on a motion of removal. This time, the motion of removal must be supported by at least a 2/3 majority of the total membership of MPs and senators. These higher thresholds reflect the gravity of removing the president. So I hope that you've heard what I said here, but I want to bring in Senator Kalipani Pugeni. He has joined us. And Senator Kalipani Pugeni, I hope that you're doing well. And I do not know if, I see that you're on mute. Please remove your mute so that the guys can hear you. Okay, fantastic. I do not know if you've heard what has happened. War veteran leader, Blessed Geza, has announced that President Mnangagwa's doctors have produced a report that shows that he is not able to perform his functions due to vascular dementia. Have you heard or have you seen this speech?
Good evening, my friend, and good evening to your listeners and all our wonderful people all over the world. I've just watched part of the speech. As you know, lately I've been minding my own business because I realized that everyone is just catching up with some of us. I think it was in 2021 when we thoroughly challenged the tampering with the terms of the Constitution, especially as it pertained to the removal of the vice president as not appointed or nominated, but as elected together with the president. And at the time when that happened, everyone just ignored the whole thing. And now I realize that people are just waking up to it very late in the day. But I just watched about 10 minutes of the speech. I must say that Comrade Geza himself today did look rejuvenated. He looked like he's got a new lease of life. The workplace was well lit and everything. I don't like to venture into the medical situation of anyone because, as you know, the vice president himself had a medical situation which played itself public to all of us. And by God's grace, we saw how there was a turnaround there. What I would like to say, though, is this issue, which is being litigated in public in the manner which is done, it will be very helpful if at the very least we could see where those numbers are going to come from. I think we have not seen, unless I'm ignorant of a number of members of parliament, both from ZANU-PF and from the opposition, who are publicly in support of this initiative. So, whereas it turned out to be easy to remove the late President Mugabe, it's because there was a large swell from the opposition and even from sleepers in ZANU-PF. And of course, the citizen went out in numbers and his position became untenable. I am not sure if we are there. So this, unless when listening to him, he said we're initiating a process, and I'm quoting him, not verbatim, I'm quoting him, unless he is putting it out there to see if they can work on it to get traction. But having listened to him and also started the situation, I don't think it's something that can happen tomorrow. But again, I may well be surprised.
Senator, what you've just said is very important. Let's look at Parliament and Senate right now. Is Parliament and Senate in session?
Well, like I told you, I really have not been following, and it turns out that I'm also out of the country, just on an extended holiday. But because of the holidays that are coming soon, they probably may still be sitting, maybe just shut down close to the holidays. But I think they are sitting. If my memory serves me well, I will check. What's the day? Today is Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to check. I'll confirm to you before we're out if they are sitting. Are you asking this to think that this will be processed tomorrow? Because that's not how Parliament works.
Because the document is already prepared. He is showing the document.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, Parliament doesn't work like that, where something is said in a press conference and then it's happening tomorrow. I would like to take you back to 2017. You remember that the atmosphere in 2017 was completely different. On the 31st, whereas there was a shutdown in the sense that people stayed away. But the shutdown of 2017, people filled the streets, and even the security of the president looked threatening. If you remember, I think the president presided on a graduation. He seemed to be wearing the same clothes, I think, for about 2 days, if not more. So it was a complete different, it's a complete different environment. But then again, if I'm to believe the reporting which you've been doing, and I know you've got your sources, it may not be word for word, eye for eye, but your sources are giving you the direction, kind of like the framework where they are going. So if you are to believe that your sources are correct and the military is indeed involved, it might not turn out to be tomorrow, but there may be something which is being on the works.
Okay. Let's look at the possibility of the reaction tomorrow from the public. How do you think the public is going to react tomorrow? Are they going to fill the streets with celebration?
I don't know if the deployment is still as heavy as it was on Monday, because the Monday deployment of the security forces, it seemed to have played a role in making people stay away. So the protest, in my own analysis, was a protest of, okay, we don't want to clash with the security forces, so what we'll do is we'll just stay away. So I am not sure if there is going to be celebrations. But again, you need to look at this issue in this manner, Kambako. You had the leaked a conversation of Honorable Mutswanga with the Takap guy, right? Of which he had a serious go at the vice president. The expectations would have been, if what he said was a misrepresentation of what exactly is happening, he really would have lost his job. I mean, logically speaking, he would have lost his job. But we didn't hear any public, even from the top up in the party to say, no, what he said is his own views. They've got nothing to do with His Excellency or something like that. And then on the other hand, you had Comrade Bombshell himself come very, very livid, extremely angry, and had a go in the manner that Honorable Mutswanga never did when he had a chance to talk about Comrade Bombshell. Comrade Bombshell came like really guns blazing and very angry on behalf of the VP. So you can then conclude that Honorable Mutswanga speaks for the faction, as it were, of His Excellency, and Comrade Bombshell speaks for the faction of the Vice President. So you are going to see these issues play themselves out in the manner that the 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 Bombshell faction seems to be courting the general public a lot. And of course, the other side, being the incumbent, is courting a lot of state institutions and in special the security apparatus. So I doubt that you will see tomorrow people in the streets. I'm sure that deployment from Monday is still in force in the major towns in the country.
Okay, so let's look at the security sector. The generals, none of the generals has come out to speak ever since this announcement was made, more than 2 hours ago. This announcement must have been discussed with some people in the security structures. And the health of the president is a national security issue. What do you think would have happened before that announcement? Do you think the military is going to come out and issue a statement or joke? What do you expect to happen?
No, don't confuse a genuine concern of the well-being of the president and the current politics at play. I think it was President Mugabe's son who revealed recently in an interview that the doctors had already told Mugabe that his health is very bad. He was about to die and all those things. But there was never a push for his impeachment or anything like that, or for him to step down. It was all hushed and all handled in a different manner. As you saw, even what happened in America with the former President Biden, whom they discovered very early in his administration that he was old, he was forgetful, he was suffering from dementia, but they were already working for his second term. So don't confuse that with the current succession politics. So he is not, if at all, and as I told you, I'm hesitant really to talk about people not being well and all those things. I think is unfair and it's inhumane.
Okay, but the question still remains, Senator. The question is, sorry? Now that it's been said, what is the security sector going to do?
They may not do anything. They may just ignore, because I want you to notice something. If what Comrade Bombshell is doing was done, say, by Advocate Mahere, Advocate Sikala, Honorable Nico Pepe, you know that those people would have been beaten, thrown into jail. You know that would have happened. But you can see that with Comrade Bombshell, there seemed to be some leeway. You know, he can really go about his politics, say whatever he is doing and saying, and the law seems to treat him like it should have treated all of us. But you know that all of us don't have that latitude. Even a genuine criticism is met with heavy force, heavy force. But that's not to say that there's no room to prosecute this opposition in a better way. Of course, also the opposition, sometimes they've really opened themselves up by the unfairness of how they go about the whole thing. But to answer you direct, I'll simply say to you, I don't think they will comment. Because even look at when they eventually moved on President Mugabe. the military really didn't say much, if we want to be honest. It was all rumored and everything, and we saw the tanks, and then the next thing that was there. Even today, the Vice President General Chiwenga has never told us what was happening, why was he taking some papers and hiding them and all those things. They've never even commented on that. So that discipline of the military is the one that makes me say this thing may happen even though the face of it, it looks like they don't have the numbers, because clearly in that parliament, the president dominates in terms of the numbers, which was not the case with Mugabe. There was a palpable fatigue when you looked at people on his leadership.
Okay, but is he safe? Where is he now? He's not talking. He's not been seen. Is he safe where he is?
Well, I wouldn't know, but being the head of state, and I'm sure you have seen the increment in his security. So obvious, being a security man himself, he will obviously would have anticipated this. There's quite a lot that we don't know, and there's a lot of capabilities that we are also oblivious of. So the security on his part is the least of my concerns, because I don't think he is as vulnerable as I said earlier on. In fact, both of them, no one in this fight is as vulnerable as if it was opposition members.
Okay. And then there's a person that has been mentioned repeatedly here, who is Udata Gwire.
Okay. I know that there's a picture of mine that was seen with him. I must be honest with you. That was my first time to meet him in person. And I wouldn't say it was even me meeting him, because we were just coming out of a church service. And for some strange reason, as he was coming out there, that day he is the one who was preaching. So he just came out and somehow he just greeted me, and for about less than, I think it was a 30 seconds chat. I don't even think he knew who I was or whatever, or he still remembers that. And then, of course, Bishop Maponga proposed that we take a picture, and we then took that picture, and that went viral. That's all I know from a close range about him. The rest I read in the media. What I made of him from the message which he preached and everything, I just saw a man of God. I don't know anything about his politics except what I read. But I'm sure also, like I said about the president, he also would have been ready for this, because clearly he's a influential figure in the ZANU-PF setup. That's why they want to now put him in the Politburo and all those things. So, but I can tell you that because of the constant mention of his name by Comrade Bombshell, obvious, if his faction falls, I can promise you, unless he makes certain concessions, that empire is going to go up in smoke.
So is he going to lose his billions?
If his faction loses, yes. But like I said, he can also negotiate and just switch his sides, which is what a lot of politicians and business people do. So it will just be just as simple as all that. But I can tell you, no one would have predicted that would be where we are here. And I think what made matters worse was that leaked audio of that conversation by Honorable Mutswanga to confirm that the 2030 agenda is a well-coordinated campaign to stop the VP General Chiwenga ascending.
Okay, which he repeated yesterday. Mutswanga did repeat the same thing yesterday in a press conference.
Yeah, you see, so you can see that the gloves are out. So it's kind of like, okay, so you've got two mouthpieces of two different factions now really fighting it out in the streets.
Okay, and then the Zimbabwe government has not issued any statements after this. There's no formal statement from the ministries. No one has said anything.
About what?
Well, in a normal country, there would have been a statement by a spokesman right now.
No, but remember, you don't realize how they want to go about it. They feel that, and this is my analysis, I may well be wrong. They feel that if they do that, they are going to spread the message even more. So they feel like if they just ignore it, then people are not going to take it serious. Because you must understand why they arrested Blessed. Blessed, they took him in there because they felt that he is now part of the players more than just doing his work as a journalist. But he now had a vested interest. He now had taken a side, and he was now truly part and parcel of the mouthpiece of the other side.
Okay, I understand.
And so in their approach was, we then silence this mouthpiece, and I'm sure you can see that Comrade Bombshell is struggling to get his message across as effortless as he was doing during those interviews with Blessed. Of course, the style of Blessed also brought something fascinating out of how that whole exchange and communication was going on.
Okay. All right. I think we've covered the majority of what needs to be said here, which is the process. According to the late Magaiza, I've laid out that there are three parts of an impeachment. The first part is the joint sitting of parliament, where 50%, a simple 50%, must approve. Then a committee of 9 will be selected, which will then go and look at it in depth. And then finally, a third sitting or a second sitting of the joint sitting with 75% required. That is then going to lead to the removal of president.
Pardon,
Do you think that right now is the speak?
Pardon, the speaker
Yes.
is Honorable Advocate Mutenda. That's the speaker.
Yeah.
The president of the Senate, whom you had Comrade Bombshell have a go at. I told you about this numbers thing. I am not sure who will call for that joint sitting which you are talking about. I don't know. The whole
If the army is involved,
sorry?
If the army is involved, they will make him call it.
Yeah, I'm yet to see, but unless the operations have been in such a way that they are so clinical, unless you are suggesting that the army is going to put a barrel on their head. But
obviously, behind the scenes, and the document is done. The document is prepared. Bombshell was showing the document. It means that document is not something new to the people in parliament. It's been discussed. My assumption would be that it's been discussed with them.
No, No, I would. Okay, if you're saying people in parliament, if you're talking all the MPs, unless if you're talking top leadership, but if you're talking just people in parliament, I would have known about it.
I'm talking about for example, Chamisa. I'm talking, Chamisa is the leader of the opposition. Bombshell has said Chamisa's MPs were taken illegally. So I would expect them to approach Chamisa, and then I would expect them to approach Vice President Chiwenga. President Chiwenga is currently acting president under these
How
circumstances.
many? Yeah, well, look, there's the ideal world, right? And then there's the world of reality, right? The ideal world is that one of saying when you're dealing with the opposition, you are dealing with Chamisa. But that's not the case, as we know, right? Notwithstanding of how did this one assume what and all those things. And that is where I'm saying to you, where are the numbers? Show me the numbers. The little I know of ZANU and I've heard is the president still has a lot of numbers. And now to impeach a president, you're going to need a 2/3 majority. At least if we're talking of a vote of no confidence, you are just going to need a simple majority. But to get a super majority, that's impeachment. It's not possible. It's not possible. And I can tell you right now, if you're saying if they wanted Chamisa to come to play, they should have at least brought him to bring people to the streets. And we didn't see that at play. In fact, you all we're getting from him is just innuendos and a bit of here, drip. You are not even sure what he's saying, at least from a point of just pure communication. Listen, people, can we support the efforts by Bombshell? All of you, let's do 1, 2, 3. That's what you would expect. That's not there. God is in it. It's fine. I will never mock him for that because I think he believes in those things. That's fine. But I'm just saying, from a political strategy and political communication point of view, it's a bit disappointing. You must tell people what you are doing or what you hope they should do or what you want them to do. But you can't just drop here and there and whatever. They should be able to piece it up together. No, I don't think that is leadership. So, if they're expecting that he's going to marshal the numbers in Parliament for impeachment, it's not going to happen. I can tell you that now, lying in my bed, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let me give you a possible scenario.
Maybe if you're talking vote of no confidence, maybe they could just get a simple majority. But impeachment, well, I was surprised in 2017. Probably I'm about to be surprised now.
My thinking and maybe a possible outcome which I'm thinking about here is if Mnangagwa was to resign or step down, is that a possibility?
No, I don't think he will do that voluntarily. He may do that just like that in the records it said that Mugabe resigned. Of course, we know he didn't. But like I said, I don't see that happening because it will seem that outside Bombshell, the rest of them, no one, the rest of them lacks the courage to stand up and say, this is what I believe, this is what I stand for, and this is what has to be done. No one is doing that. No one. You can help me, but no one.
I'm getting it. I'm getting what you're saying, that this process is not yet where we think it is.
Just to give you an example, if comrades say Bombshell, instead of quoting all these other people, say I was quoting Advocate Mahere, I would understand because, say whatever you want to say about that woman. She is literally leading single-handedly the opposition in Zimbabwe. Like alone. Now, you want to talk of communication. That's what you're talking about. She is clear. You can hear what she's saying. You are not left wondering what she's saying. She's very, very clear. This is wrong. This is where I stand. This is what must happen. Now, if people are not doing that, I'm not sure what they expect to get from ordinary Zimbabweans that have struggled for so many years. For so many years. And they keep on struggling. It's promises after promises, currency after currency, change of this after change of this. It's frustrating. It's draining. It's tiring. It's really, really tiring.
Okay. So let me summarize what I heard from what you've said. The key requirements for this to succeed is if people were to pour into the streets, if I guess I had the numbers in parliament, and if the opposition was clear and articulate and they called their people into the street, and if this process was to be understood to be something that takes time, not a short process, and you are saying Mnangagwa is not going to step down, what do you think Mnangagwa is going to do?
No, I don't have to think. You to go to my brother Nick Mangwana's page. He's communicating there very clearly that he finds this very comical and a complete waste of time. So you can cancel that whole thing of the president stepping down for whatever reason. That's not going to happen. The point I'm bringing is this whole excitement that the president is going to be impeached tomorrow is a pipe dream. It's not going to happen for the reasons which I've already said. The numbers are just not there, right? Now, you go back and say, Mugabe also said this, but then Mugabe was removed. And I'm saying the conditions are different. With Mugabe, people were in the streets, right? Now, we had Comrade Bombshell saying he thanks the people for staying away and all those things. The stay away, of course, you hear what people are saying. And I was reading Nick saying they appreciate and they listen to the people. And even the president himself in 2017, he said, the voice of the people is the voice of God. I hope that still rings true, you know. But I'm simply saying, for tomorrow, you know, or even by end of this week, no, there's nothing that's going to happen. And
Except
if they
if
are
people pour
serious
into the street. Senator, I want to stop you there. Except if people pour into the street.
Well, I don't want to say that because it's up to them how they want to play whatever they are playing. All I was simply saying is, if you are saying Chamisa is playing a role, right, and his role is that he's going to get the opposition to get the president impeached, I said, I think it's not possible when you couldn't even get him to do what Tsvangirai did. Tsvangirai was to tell us to come to the streets and work with the military, right? So I don't know. You've been following this thing. What was Advocate Chamisa's role in the 31st thing? You'll have to
I'm
assume.
talking about going forward. Up to this point, Chamisa has not done anything, but I believe that tomorrow is a different day. I believe that tomorrow we're going to see an announcement for people to go on the street. I believe that the army will be out tomorrow after what has happened. This is what I believe. And I believe that once people see the army on the streets, they're going to come out.
The army will be on the streets on what basis?
This statement that has been made is very significant.
Well, I think Comrade Bombshell has made significant statements in the past, and there hasn't been anything. So I am not sure why a sick president will bring the army in the streets. I've told you that Mugabe's son did tell us through an interview, is it a month or two ago, that the doctors had already mentioned condition of then president, no army was out. And I can guarantee you that the current president knew about it then, that the vice president knew about it then, and there was no army in the streets. And it's going to carry on like that, at least for the foreseeable future. What I know, at least what I would think they would do pardon is, remember the judgment given by the Chief Justice that restore legacy was constitutional. So what that means is that when an army intervenes like they did in 2017, it's not extrajudicial or undemocratic or whatever. It's now part and parcel of our political and legal framework, because that judgment has not been moved. And I will presume or even say that is why you see the president making the moves which he's doing in terms of the military, which Honorable Mutswanga confirmed, that the change is to make sure that that the army is ready and is coup and is coup proof, to make sure that no 2017 happens again. He confirmed that the movement, as you are seeing, is to secure the administration.
Okay, so I think tomorrow morning is going to be very important for us to see what is happening on the streets, because I believe that this is going to end up on the streets, and the parliament will just be following what people do in the streets. I don't think anyone is going to move without the movement of the bulk of the Zimbabweans. So if Zimbabweans stay in their homes, I believe that things will stay normal. But if Zimbabweans go out, I believe that there will be a change. The people above will look down and see no option. That is my thinking. What do you think about that?
Well, you saw the people of Mozambique, how they protested after the elections, and they did everything. I mean, they did everything until they were let down by ZANU-PF and the ANC. So unless really the key players in the army come to play and plan, and which I think time is not on their side, because we know now the 2017 coup was planned over a long period of time, over a long period of time. So I'm not sure on the current one if they are not rushing it out. And I was reading Professor Jonathan Moyo's piece, is it yesterday, and even a few weeks ago. I think one of the biggest mistakes with the current moves is they are announcing everything. And you know the saying, if you're going to emit a king, make sure you don't miss. And I think they will do themselves favors by not announcing some of the things. And if indeed they are working with Advocate Chamisa, they've said they are working with Advocate Chamisa, they are working with Advocate VT, as they've said, and Skala, and all those things. You must get these people to communicate direct. And otherwise, if they're going to work with you in secret, as Professor would call it, a secret society, how are they? What are they bringing to the table? They are not helpful to you at all. At all. So that's what I'm saying, that at the very least, if they would court at least Mahere, because then Mahere knows what she's communicating, she knows what she stands for, everyone knows what she stands for, and everyone knows what she's saying, and everyone can hear what she's saying. It's no innuendos, she's not just throwing words here and there, and you have to make it up yourself what exactly she's saying.
Okay, so I think, Senator, you've really articulated everything, and obviously this just happened, and we're waiting to see what happens within the next 6 hours. It's going to be very important because that is the time when everyone wakes up and reacts to what is happening. I believe that that is very important.
Yeah,
So,
I will just urge restraint. I know, because I know that the security services of Zimbabwe, they listen to your channel. I will really request for restraint, that they must spare the ordinary people, because the tendency in Zimbabwe and many other countries is to go for the foot soldiers, people just exercising their right. In the event that people want to go to the streets peacefully, yeah, they mustn't be abused. And I think by now the state has so much at its disposal to know who's organizing what, who's behind what, and all those things. Take those people through legal framework, and let's just be civilized in the way how we go about this thing. No one needs to die over this. No one needs to be injured over this. You can clearly see that there is a political fallout within top structures of the governing party, and the rest of us really are just spectators. And I'm really appealing to the security guys that spare our people. Enough blood has been shed in Zimbabwe, and it doesn't have to carry on like this. It really doesn't have to.
okay, thank you very much, Senator. I think people need to sleep. This has been a very eventful day and night. So I hope that tomorrow we have a better day. Thank you very much, Senator. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
No, nothing much, except to stress what I've already said, that please, no bloodshed. This thing, it must just play itself out in line with the constitution and the legal framework, and no excessive force. The state, we know that it's got a monopoly to violence, but that violence must be measured within the international accepted legal framework.
All right, thank you very much, Senator, and thank you to everyone who's watching. I'll be back here in the morning. In the next 3 or so hours, I'll be back to update you, and a good night to you all.
Good night.